So I'll have a timestamp in the pinned comment to the gaming portion. Just want to give a quick update on my stepdad. He's not really sleeping all that well, which is kind of problematic because he needs to be sleeping. He did sleep like 5 hours last night, Saturday night, so that is somewhat good for the situation. He also has AFib, which is probably the root cause of this sort of stuff. So his heart rate is kind of all over the place. He's still in the ICU. He's still in good spirits. You know, the brain is very sharp and all that, but he's miserable. He wants to go home, and he's not going to be able to go home at least for a little while. He has a good support system down there, though. I offered to go down there. He, of course, yelled at me and said, "That's stupid. Don't come down here. I'll be fine." So I'm just playing it by ear. But, you know, thank you guys for all your support. I'll have a funny story at the end of this video of me giving incorrect information to the doctor that makes me think that maybe I have brain damage. So stick around for that if you want. But now on to the video games. So we're talking about video games today. We're talking about Nintendo Switch 2 stuff. And for many people, pre-orders were not a problem. For some people, they were a problem, you know. But with this sort of situation, you do get sometimes places that want to take advantage of people and take advantage of these sort of situations. We've seen it time and time again with things like scalpers and stuff like that, but you never really tend to see it too much, or at least it's not talked about too much with actual video game stores. But in this case, we have an instance of a GameStop way overstepping their boundaries, and I kind of want to talk about this situation because I actually know the person that this involves. You've probably seen him on Wood's channel, Beat 'em Ups. You might have seen him on Bob's channel, Wolf Den. You might have seen him at a convention. But this situation of a GameStop in Astoria is very interesting, and they're trying to like make it right and stuff like that. But I'm not quite sure like how you would actually be able to do that. So here is Elia, the guy with the hair. You know, like I said, you've probably seen him before at, you know, on people's videos or at conventions and stuff like that. He got married recently, so congratulations on that. Hope everything goes well with that. Hope you got a prenup, buddy. Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. This is just jokes. I'm just someone who worries a little bit. Hope you got the prenup. Anyways, though, you know, he's a successful individual, successful person. He was not having luck with GameStop's website, so he decided, all right, I'm going to this GameStop in Astoria. I don't know anything about Astoria. I don't think it's like super far from me, but I do know that Emir has a song called Bars in Astoria. So that's kind of my Astoria knowledge here. But here he is waiting in the line. And then things kind of got interesting here. So this GameStop is forcing you to buy bundles, cases, screen protectors, etc. They're claiming that they can't process the SKU just for the console, but we all know what's going on here. Personally, I want Donkey Kong and a screen protector, so it isn't a big deal, but others are leaving. So basically what they're doing is they are forcing bundles upon people just to pre-order the system, which makes absolutely no sense to someone like you or me, because obviously they just want people to pre-order the system. But if you know anything about how GameStop operates, you know, they're not making money on the console itself. They're not making money on the new games itself. It's on accessories. It's on upselling you on stuff like that, especially if they are like, you know, third-party accessories or something like that, or, you know, player protection things on your games and stuff like that, but forcing you to actually do it. And he has a video here of someone talking about it as well. They showed some of the bundles. It's taking forever because you can mix and match. Not the 2-year warranty, change it for the game, but you have to essentially buy another $200 worth of stuff so they can process the order. And we could see here in this image kind of what is going on with the different pricing. I'll zoom in editing with this, but you can see there's like different bundles and stuff like that that you have to get, the essentials, the enhanced, the everything, and they are just pretty much skipping over the fact that, you know, there are just standard consoles that people are probably going to actually want, and that's what they're going to be interested in here. So, you know, this is a thing where it's like, I'm in the store next. Someone just asked if they could cancel everything at the time of pickup but keep the console, and they said yes. So it's all for nothing if you want it to be. Doesn't make any sense. So you could essentially cancel everything else that they made you pre-order. So what's the point of doing it? What is the point of doing it? So you see here that GameStop actually replied to this tweet. We are actively investigating this. Any customer who was turned away at the Astoria location should reach out via DM so we can make it right. The problem is, and people are like, oh, thank you, that's awesome, it's so kind of you. But the problem is, like, how do you verify any of this? How do you verify that someone wanted to just buy a Nintendo Switch 2? They were told they can't unless they get it in some arbitrary bundle that has a bunch of stuff that people may or may not want, that people may or may not need for their gaming experience, when in reality, all you need is the console. So the verification process of this, like, I don't understand how you would be able to figure it out. Like, can I message GameStop help and be like, hey, I was in Astoria and they turned me away? And it makes you wonder, just how isolated this is. Now, from what I know, the GameStop at me, because I've been talking with this kid Justin about getting his second Nintendo Switch 2 that he pre-ordered, but I'm guessing he didn't have an issue with this because I feel like he would have mentioned it to me when he went to GameStop at our local mall and got it pre-ordered. But what if you don't have a Twitter account? What if you don't have a social media account? How would you be able to get this information out there that they were doing some shady stuff here? You could see Jake Randall chiming in here. This starts at the corporate level. You put unbelievable pressure on your employees to upsell and add warranties. Your store employees are the best part of your company and deserve to be treated better. That said, what happened at this location is unacceptable, and it's great to see you holding them accountable, but you need to fix the root of the problem to truly solve the issue. And Jake is 100% right. Jake must have worked retail at some point in time, because GameStop, like, when you get on these calls and stuff like that, they want to know how much you've upsold. They want to know how much you're doing, in terms of these extra things that for most people are not going to be something that they actually need. And the problem is when your store is not doing as well as other stores in your district, you get penalized for things like that. So my kind of theory is maybe this store hasn't been doing too great in metrics, or maybe they usually do great in metrics. Either one could be the case here, but they wanted to have high metrics on this. So somebody within the store, probably the general manager, came up with this idea to kind of push the bundles with a bunch of extra crap, because essentially what that is going to do is that is going to beef up their numbers. And when the weekly report from the district manager, when you get on that phone call and they tell you how all the stores are doing, what stores are doing great, what stores aren't doing great, they will kind of survive and be like, oh, well, your store is doing great job over there in Astoria. But the problem is that you're screwing over the customer, and you are basically creating a problem that doesn't need to exist. You're essentially creating a problem that doesn't need to exist. People just want the console. Yes, you are going to have some people who, when they get to the register, you say, oh, do you want to add this? Do you want to add this? Do you want to add this? And some people will say yes, but you can't just manufacture a bundle and force people into it. And it's not even a real bundle, because if it was a real bundle, it wouldn't take them forever to add everything into your order. It would all just be there. The essential bundle would be something that's in the computer. So you would click essential bundle, and then you wouldn't have to ask for each individual thing. So this was definitely a big misstep. I'm not sure how this is going to be corrected, but I am genuinely interested. Like, did any of you guys have a situation like this at a GameStop, to where they were pushing these bundles on you and, essentially forcing you and not letting you just pre-order the system and, a game or two, but essentially just putting them into these bundles to where you are forced to do something like that? And if so, what was the location of that GameStop? Because I think there needs to be more awareness onto this. There might be people that went to a GameStop that don't have Twitter or don't have a social media presence, and their story is going to go untold. So, share this with people. Let them know that is not supposed to be the case, because some people may think that that's just how it is. That's just what the case is with this, and that's the only way to get it, because that's what GameStop told them. There's not not everyone has their finger on the pulse of stuff like this. So let me know if you know of anyone, or if you had an instance with a GameStop to where they wouldn't let you pre-order just the Nintendo Switch 2 system, and like the location, you don't have to say like the exact location, but just like a general location, because I'm very interested to see how this plays out. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Give me your thoughts in the comments section down below, how you feel about this. I do have a bit of a funny story. I swear to you that my stepdad had Bell's palsy for like 2 months when I was in high school. And when his girlfriend called me and said that he was in the hospital for a stroke, I told her, oh, yeah, he had Bell's palsy for like 2 months when I was in high school. And she was like, oh, I'll let the doctor know. When I talked to my dad on the phone, I was like, yeah, I remember he had Bell's palsy when I was in high school for like 2 months. And he was like, no. And I was like, no, you did. I was like, it's cool. You probably just don't remember. You're tired. He's like, no, I didn't. And I'm like, no, you did. And he's like, well, call your mother. I was like, bro, I bet you 5 racks you had it. All right. Shut the hell up. You're delusional. You're tired. You just had a stroke. And he's like, call your mother. I'm like, okay. So I get off the phone, call my mom. I'm like, yo, ma, remember when my stepdad, remember he had Bell's palsy when I was in high school? She was like, no. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, no, he had it. He had it for like 2 months. And she's like, no, you're an idiot. And I'm like, did I enter a new timeline? Did I really do that many drugs in high school that I formulated this false memory? I called my grandma because my grandma remembers everything. I called my grandpa. No, never had it. What the hell? I'm either in a new timeline, or maybe I need to go to a brain doctor or something like that later.